Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Wassalatu Wassalamu ala Ashrafil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen, Nabiyyina Muhammadi wa ala Alihi wa Sahbihi Ajma'een. Amma ba'du, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our Fiqh Hour. Just after the hour, Alhamdulillah. Nice of you all, or those of you who are joining us now. That's a familiar person who's joined us. I hope you're well, young man. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How are you doing? You okay? Alhamdulillah. Nice to see you here. I don't know. Shall I give you a wave? Wait, let me press this. There you go. Did you get a wave there? I hope you're well, Mr. Dingers BD3. I hope you're well. And I hope you're looking after BD3, mashallah. Nice to see you here. Hope you stay on. Yeah, I know it's been a while. But stay on, inshallah. Yeah, I have this. Wa alaikum salam. I have this every 7 p.m. Mr. Dingers, 7 till 8 p.m. every day. So share it with you, the classmates as well. Share it with you, the students, inshallah, and jump on, ask some questions. Jump off as and when you please, inshallah. But nice to see you here. So it's good to catch up with some familiar names, some old names, and some new names. Alhamdulillah, we've been running now Fiqh Hour since just the start of this year, so 25 days. And we have switched a little bit different. This time we've gone on Instagram Live as well. Most of the time we are on YouTube, on Facebook and TikTok, but we thought instead of Twitter, we'd go on Instagram, as it seems to be a place where other people are hiding, as we found Mr. Dingers hiding away in under the Instagram. Alhamdulillah. So, inshallah, without further ado, we have no questions that came in, as I recollect, through Markazul Ifta wal Qadha, if I remember correctly. And so therefore, inshallah, inshallah, I will concentrate on the ones which are coming through either on Facebook, on Instagram, or on YouTube. So there's some that have already come through on YouTube. So let's pick up those questions, inshallah. So feel free to ask your questions on Instagram if those of you are there, mashallah. And similarly, those of you who are on Facebook at the moment, I don't know, I hope my connection is good because it doesn't seem as though it's connecting too well. Okay. Is it permissible for my husband to provide the mahar after taking a loan? Does this make the mahar valid? Is it permissible for my husband to provide the mahar after taking a loan? Does this make the mahar valid? So the mahar is the woman's right. Okay, so as soon as a mahar has been stipulated in a nikah, then the woman has only agreed to that marriage based on that mahar. So if the mahar is not given, then arguably the arrangement, the nikah, is going to soon become problematic. So however the husband attains and achieves that money, that's to a certain extent his problem. It's not his wife's problem. And so therefore he should get that money and then obviously pass that mahar on to her. It makes more sense that he has the mahar already in his possession before he arranges his marriage, for obvious reasons, because obviously he has to give it to his wife, and if he doesn't have it, then he's going to have a little bit of a problem there. So however he gets the money, whatever he's agreed with his wife as her mahar, then he should get that and obviously provide that for her. Alhamdulillah. Mr. Dingers, life is good. Alhamdulillah, been busy on a few little things. If you remember our charity, Olive Lantern Trust, well, we're pushing on that as well a little bit more. Now that I've got, now that I'm teaching less, I can focus on those things a little bit. So visit it on olivelanterntrust.com and you'll find the details. Share it with family and friends. There's lots of projects on there that are close to me, as well as those which are some general ones. So if you are, anybody is looking to give zakat coming up to Ramadan or anything else of that nature, then we have the facilities available there. Secondly, I'm doing a little bit of work on RG Advisory and also on RG Group as well. And also I'm doing my work on the fiqh side of things. For now, in terms of teaching, no, we are just carrying on with what we have, the Hifz class and the Maktab classes. But in terms of the Alimiya, we're not running that at the moment. And also, obviously, school for now, we're not running that at the moment. So that's where we are right now. Allah knows best. Maybe you, Mr. Dingers, could be our future teachers. And therefore, we need some young blood in there, inshallah, to take the lead for providing leadership for the community, inshallah. What duties does a wife have? Is cooking and managing the household chores obligatory for her, or is it an act of ihsan towards her husband? Interesting question. When it comes to the wife's responsibilities, then her wife's responsibilities, the wife's responsibilities are to a certain extent managing the house. Maybe not managing the household chores, but managing the house, because the husband tends to or should be the so-called breadwinner or the chapati winner or the rice winner or whatever staple diet people have. That's his job. So he's going to spend quite a lot of the time outside of the house. Nowadays, obviously, a lot of people work from home. So that's changed. But in the old days, obviously, when you used to earn a living, you would have to go outside of the house to earn the living. Now you can earn the living inside the house. So there's a little bit more flexibility. But anyway, let's just assume traditionally that you're leaving the house. So the man is leaving the house, which means he's sort of getting up early in the morning. As soon as he's got up early in the morning, he's then setting off to go across out of the house. And when he leaves the house, he's now going to work, and he'll normally get back in sort of 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, just about, clean himself up and maybe get prepared for something to eat. And before you know it, the day is virtually over. So he's not really going to be spending that much time in the house. So therefore, when it comes to the management of the house, then that would fall under the wife's responsibility, because obviously there's money in the house, there's items in the house, obviously, the usual day-to-day running of the house. When it comes to cooking and cleaning and things like that, then no, she's not obligated to cook or clean. Um, you're so nice. Alhamdulillah. We're all getting older. I'm sure you're old as well now, Dingas. So when it comes to, for example, cooking and cleaning, that doesn't come under her remit or under her responsibility. And the reason why it doesn't come under her remit or her responsibility is because that's not the obligation that she's met. She does this, as you correctly said, as a form of ihsan, as a form of, keeping the house, keeping the cost down for the husband. Because if the husband had to hire a cook, or if the husband had to hire a cleaner, then that's going to cost him even more. So, he should be grateful that his wife has taken up these responsibilities, because one is he doesn't have to hire a cleaner, one is he doesn't have to hire a cook. And so therefore it makes him managing his household a lot better. Unfortunately, obviously, many men make this assumption that the wife is literally like some kind of slave or something, that must do as he chooses, when he chooses, and how he chooses. And that's not the way the Sharia has that in there. She is the mother of his children. So, he should treat her with some respect, treat her with some dignity, like he would treat his own mother. She is also somebody else's mother. So like he has respect for his own mother, then he should have that same level of respect for her. And if they come to, and if it comes to, some students are funny, aren't they? And if it comes to he's trying to distract me here. So if it comes to the arrangement of the running the house, then they should reach to some, amicable conclusion. And when they reach to some amicable conclusion, then obviously they can make that kind of arrangement. So that's how it usually happens, is that it is done through some kind of conversation, and she chooses to help her husband by doing the cooking, realizing that obviously you're spending so much time outside the house, you don't earn enough to hire a cook, you don't earn enough to hire a cleaner, and so therefore, I'm more than happy to take that task on. And he should express some gratitude and gratefulness. Let me just send this. The next question we have is, I want to know the consequences if a woman, despite her menstrual period ending, hasn't performed. A woman who is now cycle is complete, she is in a state of purity. It depends on what date she has reached of purity. If it is less than 10 days, then she should perform ghusl. And when she performs ghusl, then it's permissible for her to partake in intimacy. If, on the other hand, her cycle is complete after 10 days or up to 10 days, according to the Hanafi school, 10 days is the maximum, and then she is permitted, without having to take ghusl, to engage in intimacy. So it really depends on her adat. Adat meaning her normal menstrual cycle that she has. So if she has, according to the Hanafi school, 3 days is the minimum, 10 days is the maximum. So if her adat is less than 10 days, then she would need to perform ghusl beforehand. And once she performs ghusl, then she is permitted to have intimacy with her husband. If, on the other hand, her menstrual cycle finishes after 10 days, then obviously at that time she can partake in intimacy without the need to perform ghusl. However, even then, it is more sound for her to perform ghusl. Reason being is to be in a state of purity and not to stay in a state of najasa. That is what she should avoid. I ain't old yet, Ustad. I'm still on my 5th year. I commend you on your persistence, young man. Alhamdulillah. Keep going, mashallah. I'm sure you'll do well. Ustad, I got a proper question for you. That's good, mashallah. What do you have to do if you broke your fast in Ramadan, if you've missed a lot of them? So what that means here, young man, is that it depends if you kept the fast or you didn't keep the fast. So, for example, if you did not keep the fast at all, you made no near to keep the fast, and you didn't keep a fast, then all you will do is make up that fast. So, for example, you get up one morning, you don't get up for a suhoor, and you get up at 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and you're not fasting, and it's Ramadan. And you never made a near when you went to sleep at night that I'm going to fast tomorrow. You just basically said, I'm just going to carry on. I'm not going to fast for whatever reason, whatever conclusion you came to. Then there is only one qaza that needs to be kept in place of that missed fast. If, on the other hand, you made niyyah and you started the fast, and then as the day went on, you decided for whatever reason that I'm going to break this fast, and so you broke that fast. Now, obviously, there is not only qaza to do, but also kafara. So if, for example, you broke 10 fasts like that, so you made niyyah at night, you got up in the morning, and then you just decided, you know what, I'm not going to fast, I'm going to go get something to eat. And you say, for example, you did 10 fasts like that. Then what you would do is you would have to do what's called kafara. Kafara is expiation. Expiation meaning that you have to pay a penalty for breaking those fasts. So what you would do is you would do your qadha first. So if, say, you broke 10 fasts like that, then you would make up those 10 fasts, and then you would perform 60 days continuous fasting. 60 days continuous fasting. And you cannot take a break in the middle. They have to be continuous, one day after the other, one day after the other. Only a woman is obviously excused when she's not permitted to fast during her menstrual cycles. Then obviously she can be excused for those days of her menstrual cycles. But as soon as her menstrual cycle is complete, then she must start her fast again. But for a chap, obviously, he has no excuse. So he would, as soon as he's doing his qazas, he would, at the first available opportunity, perform his kafara. Performing his kafara is 60 days fasting continuous. Okay. And then he's clean. And it's very important that you do that, or whoever who is broken the fast does that, because this will hang over that person. And if, God forbid, they die in that duration, then obviously they are sinful. Marriage between siblings is not permitted. Could you please provide the family tree of Adam al-Islam as our father? Share information about the social system during the time and how it was evolved. Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the siblings, or when it came to the, remember, the same Sharia is not applied to every Nabi. That's the first thing. So, for example, we know that in certain Anbiya, you could bow out of respect to somebody. In our Sharia, you cannot bow out of respect to somebody. But we know, for example, in the Sharia of Yusuf alayhi salam, you could bow out of respect to somebody. And there's other differences in other Sharias that have come and gone, in which there are certain things which are legal, certain things which are illegal. Ours was the final one. But if you go to Adam alayhi salam time, then obviously there was only two humans. Yani Adam alayhi salam and his wife. So when they had children, then they were all siblings. So what would happen there is, depending on yes, inshallah. Enjoy yourself, young man. Nice to see you. See you tomorrow, inshallah. But let other students know as well. And same time, 7 p.m., inshallah. Share the link with them. So it'd be nice to see them. So when it comes to the time of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, then Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, like I said, there was only Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salatu wasalam. And when the children that were born from them, obviously civilization would have ceased to exist if there was no nikah permitted amongst the children of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. So therefore, it is reported that when Hawa alayhi salam carried child, then she carried twins, a male and a female child, and she would give birth every year. So when she would give birth every year, she would give birth to a male and a female child. The siblings were considered as those that were born in the same pregnancy. So those that were born in the same pregnancy, they were siblings. Those that were born in another pregnancy were not considered a sibling. So even though they had the same mother and the same father, they were not considered as siblings. Because if you look at it, at that time, things were different. Let's think about it. Hawa alayhi salatu wasalam was born from, or was created from, Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, yani from his rib. So that is most unusual, because Hawa alayhi salam wasn't born like a child is born. Adam alayhi salam was not born like a child is born. So they had, creation without mother and creation without father. That's how they came about. So so that relationship was unique anyway. And that's how the relationship was. And that's for obvious reasons, because of the fact that in those times, there was no other children. They could only marry from their own sort of parents' children. There was no way to it. And that's why we always say we are all the children of Adam alayhi salam. So technically, if we go back far enough, then we are all the children of Adam alayhi salam. So in reality, we are all related somehow if we go far back enough. But obviously the Sharia has changed, because there's no need for those kind of relationships anymore, because there are plenty men and there are plenty of women. There's no restrictions. Therefore, we can marry. That marriage is now impermissible. Is doing zikr loud in groups from the Sunnah? Interesting question. There is no reference to such where the Prophet ﷺ or the companions radiallahu anhum ajma'een, or the tabi'in or tabi'in sat in groups and made loud dhikr. There is no evidence that I'm aware of, that I have come across. So no, it cannot be said that it is from the Sunnah. So I hope that solves that. When selling an item, for example, a car, do you have to disclose everything in regards to the condition and past issues, or is it up to the buyer to check? Can it be sold as seen? Yes, one can say, buy as seen, but those issues that exist with the car that the seller is aware of course, they should make the buyer aware of it. They should not just allow the buyer to kind of come to that conclusion. Obviously, those things which the seller does not know, the seller does not need to disclose, because they don't know them. That's upon the buyer. The buyer afterwards goes and says, oh, by the way, your carburetor's, messed up or something. And the seller genuinely did not know that the carburetor was messed up. Then the seller is not held responsible, because that is buyer seen. So when it comes to buyer seen, that is in relevance to those aspects of the car that the seller is unaware of. And that's the responsibility of the buyer to determine whether they want to buy that car or not, based upon its condition. But when it comes to something that the seller is aware of, so the seller knows full well that this car has a problem with its rear axle, or this car has a problem with its brakes, and the person knows that, and that's one of the reasons why he's selling it, then obviously you have to make the buyer aware of it, that look, by the way, because obviously the price you're going to set at is going to take that into consideration. So say, look, you know the value of this car is about £5,000, and that's how much I'm selling it. But because it's low mileage, because it's only 2 owners, because it's a full service history, I want to sell it for 5.5. However, there is a problem with the brakes, and that should cost you a couple of £100. So I was going to sell it for 5,500, but because there's a problem with the brakes, which costs around 200, I'll sell it to you for 5,300. That's absolutely fair. Now the chap says, fine, here's 5,300, give me the car. You sell him the car, off he drives it. 2 weeks later, he takes it to the garage to sort the brakes out, and the mechanic says, oh, goodness me, you've got a problem with your rear axle. It's damaged. So now that the buyer comes back to the seller and says, oh, you sold me a duff car. And he says, why? He says, well, there's a problem with the rear axle as well. I want you to knock off another £400 because that's how much it's costing me to repair. So now he doesn't have to, because he's going to say, well, look, I said this is sold as seen. Whatever I knew was wrong with the car, I informed you of that. What I didn't know was wrong with the car, obviously I couldn't inform you of that. And you had the chance to check everything because I allowed you to check everything. I did not restrict you. So that aspect is sold as seen, but not the bits that a person is aware of, because then this is slightly fraudulent. This is slightly being deceptive. We know, for example, the Prophet Wasallam, when he went past a large heap of food stuff, he took his hand and he placed his hand inside this heap, and his hand came out wet. So he said to the seller that, turn the food inside out, make the seller aware that it's wet, because the buyer, make the buyer aware that it's wet, because when the buyer comes, he sees dry food. So he'll say, okay, I'll have a kilo of that. So when the seller weighs it and he gives him a kilo of it, but obviously some of it is wet. So there might be, 50 grams of water, or maybe even 100 grams of water. So he's actually only bought 900 grams of food stuff, and he's bought 100 grams of water. So that's not fair on him. But again, someone can't say, that was his problem. He should have checked the food stuff before he bought it. Well, no, because he's buying it as seen. He's looking at the surface of the food stuff and he's thinking that's what it's like. Now, the seller knows that it rained yesterday, and when it rained yesterday, he didn't get a chance to cover his food stuff, and so he knows it's wet. And today it's been a very sunny day, so he knows the top of the food is now dry and the inside is wet. So that's deception. That's deception. So he had to make the seller aware by turning the food inside out, and so the buyer would see that this food is wet. Okay, he must have left this out yesterday in the rain. So, brother, you normally sell this for £10 a kilo, but because it's wet, how much are you going to sell it for now? So he might say, okay, because it's wet, I'll sell it to you for £9 a kilo. Okay, fine. Agreed. Deal. So yes, it is a burden upon the seller to inform the buyer of any defects or any problems the item, in this case the car, may have. But obviously what he is unaware of, he can say, the rest I'm not aware of. I know its brakes are problematic. I don't know about anything else of the car. It's sold as seen when it comes to the rest. That's a different thing altogether. As-Salamu Alaikum. Alaikum Salam. I wanted to buy something online which doesn't have the option of non-personalization. The seller said if I buy it, she will refund me some money for not getting it personalized. Will this transaction be permissible, as I will be initially paying more for the product and then getting a refund? So as I'm understanding it correctly, you're buying an item, and because it's personalized, it's going to cost you a little bit more. However, when you are buying the item, the option for personalization is not there. So the seller said, not a problem. You still go ahead and buy it, but I will refund you some money for not getting it personalized. So as long as there is clarity as to how much you will get back, and you are happy with that. So if the sister says that, oh, this thing is normally, it's a mug, which I'm just using as an excuse to drink some coffee. Now it's a mug, and the mug normally costs £10 because we personalize it for you. So you pay £10. However, the machine that normally personalizes mugs is broken. So you pay £10 and I will give you £2.50 back, or I'll give you £3 back. And if you're happy with that, yeah, that's fine. Then that's absolutely fine. It might be that she can't change the system online because sometimes, the buying of an item is fixed. So that's why she might have it fixed at that price. So as long as you're happy with the final price, because in reality, the final price is £7 for a non-personalized mug, because that's what you're buying in reality, then that's absolutely fine, because you've agreed that price of £10 or £7 rather, but all you've done is you've given extra and she's refunded you the extra pound. Can we eat from the same plate if sharing with a non-Muslim, or share the same cup drink? That would go khilaf of adab, to share an item, share food on a plate, or to share from a cup or drink, primarily because of the issue of najasa, primarily because of the issue of certain, it might be for cleanliness, for example. We're taught when we answer the call of nature, what steps we should take in order to make sure our bodies are clean, and then secondly, to make sure that our hands are clean. That might not be the case. I'm not generalizing here. It may not be the case because many non-Muslims are also very, very clean. So just an assumption that we have to make here, that might not be the case there. That might not be the case with Muslim as well. But at least we have a presumption that because they've been taught this practice, that they should be acting on this practice. It's just that we can't allay that presumption. Similarly, obviously, we know non-Muslims are permitted to drink alcohol. So if they are permitted to drink alcohol, then we don't know whether they've drunk something or not, that when they're sharing that same vessel. So it's nothing to do with their belief systems. It's nothing to do with their aqidah or anything like that. This is more to do with the fact of tahara, cleanliness, and making sure that we are clean, or we're engaging in using utensils and vessels that are clean. So let me just make sure that I've caught everything on here. Yes, alhamdulillah, all done on there. All done on there. How about shaking a non-Muslim hands? Firstly, obviously, the condition needs to be placed here that Muslim in Islam, a man is not permitted to make physical contact with a female, and likewise, a female is not permitted to make physical contact with a male. So when it comes to shaking hands, then we're only limiting ourselves to shaking hands with people of the same gender. There is no requirement to shake hands. We make a big habit of it, of shaking hands. It is, in Islam, yes, that's more to express brotherhood and to show as a means of greeting. But it's not something that, is a regular practice in the sense of when we engage with people of other faiths. Reason being is that, it's not a requirement. If it was a requirement, then yes, so therefore, again, it goes on to that same idea, really. The difference here is that obviously you're not eating anything directly. So there is permissibility. The Tahara issue will still be there, without going into too much detail, especially from a male perspective. How many folk that use the bathroom, use the toilet, use a urinal, and then may not wash their hands when they leave the bathroom? So, that is a habit. As I said, we're starting to see that habit take place in Muslims, never mind in non-Muslims. So that's something to bear in mind. But because you're obviously not going to eat that, you're not going to take your hand straight to your mouth, even though people have a habit of doing that, then there is some scope. There is nothing forbidding a person from doing it. But it's again a case of looking at the issue of tahara more than anything else. But in this case, it is less so an issue. because of the fact that you're not actually placing something in your mouth, whereas in the case of drinking and in the case of eating, you are placing something directly into your mouth. You mentioned that we can take a drink offered by non-Muslims a few sessions back. Isn't the issue of Tahara also an issue here and best to avoid? I don't recall saying that. Maybe, let me just send this. I don't recall saying that, but if someone offers you a drink, there's no issue there. So if you go to, for example, a coffee shop, if you go to a coffee shop, for example, whatever, and someone prepares a coffee for you and gives you it to drink, of course you can take that drink. It might be a non-Muslim that's prepared it. So there's no issue there, because of the fact that you see in places where there are restaurants and coffee shops and things like that, then they do take cleanliness very seriously. You'll see them with gloves on. You'll see them with things like that. So there is an element of that, or whether you go to a sandwich shop or anything of that nature. Here we're talking about maybe at the canteen or something, sat with somebody, or at lunch sat with somebody, a friend or an associate or something like that. You see, this would be not something that would be considered hygienic even for many non-Muslims. I've not come across in my time a non-Muslim willingly sharing a can or a cup with somebody. So it is not usually good etiquettes across the board. So as I said, I'd be very surprised if that was the case, that happened. So if you, as you say, that this has been mentioned, I said I can't recall mentioning that. Maybe you can check it on one of the videos. But if it has been mentioned, then obviously there is no issue there when it is a company or an organization that is providing food, because they have their own stringent conditions that they need to follow. The only thing you need to be concerned about there is cross-contamination. So if it comes to, for example, that's where you need to raise that. So sometimes, obviously, people quality standards are a bit poor. And if the quality standards are a bit poor, what they can do is they can cross-contaminate. So if you're going to a particular restaurant or a particular place that provides food, like a pizza shop that also serves meats and pork and poultry, which is not halal, then there's a possibility of cross-contamination. But again, these places are very careful in avoiding to do that, for obvious reasons, because of allergic reactions to things. And obviously the vegetarian community and the vegan community are quite vocal and a quite significant population. And there would be repercussions. So you'll see on menus clearly labeled vegetarian, clearly labeled vegan. So the issue is not on those parameters. The issue is if you're sat, with somebody, a friend or a work associate, and that's what you're doing. But again, as I said, I find that difficult to accept that it is normal practice in canteens that people, maybe at school, because kids share drinks at school, but as adults, that people share cups with each other and share. It never happened, in my working life. So as I said, maybe I lived in a different time. Also, is there any issue in wearing a suit and tie at work, or is it copying non-Muslim? This is there's an issue with this, in the sense that at what point do you draw the line as to, does it come under tashabbuh, yani imitating or copying? It's very similar to, for example, women that wear saris in the Indian subcontinent. So when women wear saris in the Indian subcontinent, then that is not appropriate dress for a Muslim woman, but it is now acceptable as a dress for Muslim women in certain countries in the Indian subcontinent. Similarly, the original time when wearing the suit was initiated, then yes, it would have come under tashabbuh. Now, obviously, you're starting to see that the suit is sort of a standard dress code across the world. In fact, it's become the norm. The only thing one has to be careful about with a suit is that it should be loose enough, especially when we discussed about aura a couple of days ago, that it is loose enough that a person's aura is not tightly fitting to it. So, like, for example, a Muslim man can wear a t-shirt and joggy bottoms or something, or shorts, if he's going to go play football or something like that, or he's going to go to the gym. then similarly, he can wear loose-fitting trousers. The shirt doesn't matter. He can show his pectorals off. He can show his shoulders off if he so pleases. But when it comes to his aura, it's got to be loose-fitting, and that's why you'll see that particular dress from the East, you tend to find that the top garment, the shirt, covers up to the knees virtually, at least, so that the bottom shape and the front thighs are covered. So if a person does wear a suit, then he's probably better off wearing a jacket that is quite a long jacket, not the usual suit jacket. So the long jacket goes all the way down to his knees at least, and also that his trousers are loose fitting, so that when he sits, it's not tight around his crotch, or it's not tight around his backside, because then that defeats the object of wearing clothes. Because, you know, even though he's covering, his skin cannot be seen, but the shape of his body can be seen. And as the hukum applies to the women when it comes to their aura, then the hukum also applies to men in their aura. It's not difference just because men are men and women are women. It's the same. As the difference obviously is the what is considered as the aura. But when it comes to the rules applying to it, then the rules applying to it are the same. So we now live in an era where one cannot say specifically this is now the dress code of Western society or non-Muslim society. It's pretty much that barrier is now being broken. It is across the nations. You would see, for example, when Japanese men would have meetings 50, 60 years ago, they would be in a completely different dress code, sat in a completely different way. But now, if you see a corporate office or a corporate meeting room in Japan, Tokyo, or in Singapore, or in Malaysia, or in Bangladesh, or in Pakistan, or in UAE, or in France, or in, you know, it's the same dress code. Okay, it's the same dress code. That's because, again, of the power dynamics of Western society. So if someone now wears one, would they be considered tashabbuh? No, but they would still need to apply those rules of making sure the aura is loose fitting around that area. That would apply no matter what. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to clothing, there's no kind of restrictions for Muslim, you know, men or Muslim women to have any type of clothing, as long as it fulfills those that criteria. So even if a woman, for example, buys a loose fitted dress from a Western company that covers her aura in the appropriate way, then she's not obliged to wear Pakistani clothes, because for whatever reason, as long as the objectives of the clothing are met. Okay, that's the key thing. And in fact, I've written, not written, I keep saying this, there is a video here on the channel in which I've talked about clothing as to what is Islamic clothing and what does that mean. So if you find that video on the YouTube channel, you can watch that, inshallah. What if working in a non-Muslim house and they offered tea in the mug, as we can't be sure if the mug is pure? Yeah, if you know, in those circumstances, you will make the assumption that it is clean because they would have washed it. You know, one can't go by the assumption that it is dirty and until it's proven otherwise. You will go by the, so unless, you know, it's about, you know, looking around the house. You know, most people, when they're drinking out of a mug, they're not going to be drinking alcohol. You can ask that question. You can say, excuse me, if you don't mind me asking, do you use this mug for drinking alcohol out of? And if they say, no, we don't use this mug for drinking alcohol, we use this mug for drinking coffee out of, you know, and they might look at you with a strange look, like, why would you even ask such a strange question? Then obviously drinking coffee out of it, that's absolutely fine, because they would have been washed and they would be hygienic. But if you go to a house and you see, you know, dirty plates piled up on the sink, you see, you know, rats running around on the floor, you see food still, you know, on the floor, then yeah, I would say, okay, no thanks, no coffee for me today. So it's about using one's akal, you know. There's no like fast rule that, oh, you're a non-Muslim, can't eat your food, you know, can't drink out your mug, you know, oh, you're this, you know. We can't generalize in those circumstances. It's a case, because like I said, even going to a Muslim house, you might go to a Muslim house, but unfortunately they might have brown skin, but you know, they might not pray at all. And they might be smoking weed whilst, you know, you're working on the boiler downstairs. and then he's making a cup of coffee for you. How do you know how clean a cup of coffee is? You just got to look around. So don't make generalizations. We have principles, but we are told to use our akal, our intellect, to kind of determine the severity of something, or the gravity of something. Is the Prophet Sallallahu alive in his grave? Alhamdulillah. So we have to try to understand what we mean by alive. Okay, first of all, is alive. So there's different types of alive. In short, yes, the Prophet ﷺ is alive in his grave, but there's different types of alive. There's mine and your alive, which is, we move, we eat, we drink, we answer the call of nature, we age. That's alive. We breathe, we rest. We do all the things that a live thing does. And then obviously we cease to be alive because we die. We start to organically die, and therefore our cells and our heart stops, and our brain suffocates because of lack of oxygen, and we die. But we're told also that the shuhada, yani the shaheed, are not dead. But we know that in the worldly sense of the word, they are dead. They're lying there on a battlefield, and they've been shot 8 times, or they have an arrow going straight through their heart. So obviously, by the definition of the word dead, they are dead. But they're not dead in another way, according to how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes them. So that means that live has kind of, different expressions, right? Different expressions. So does the Prophet ﷺ move out of his grave and move around the world? Like, if I can, for example, I'm sat in my room right now, I could, get a ticket and get on a plane and fly off to, Mexico or something like that. And, whatever, I'm not restricted at all. Does the Prophet ﷺ move like that? No, he doesn't. He is bound to his resting place. We call it resting place. So that's where he is. Is he dead in the sense of absolute nothing, whatever? No, he's not. So therefore, it's very hard to apply what we mean by this definition. So the way we understand it is that he is alive, he is receptive to our sending durood upon him, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He is receptive to people giving him salam, alayhi salatu wasalam, when they go to his, when they pass by him. He is receptive to that. So therefore we understand that that he is alive, but it's a different type of alive. And sometimes these type of discussions can cause a lot of confusion and difference of views and all the rest of it. So I think that suffice to believe, and that's more than enough. There's no point going any deep diving than that. Who is Hazrat Khizr alayhi salam, and is he still alive? Well, Hazrat Khizr alayhi salatu wasalam, there's some dispute as to what he was, whether he was a prophet or whether he was a wali, and to a certain extent, whether he was an angel. And he is he has the elixir of life, in the sense that he does not age, he does not die. And it is reported that wherever he used to go, greenery used to follow him. And he was had knowledge from Allah that the Anbiya weren't taught. For example, Musa alayhi salatu wasalam at that time, and who met him and walked with him and traveled with him and had some adventures with him, which is recorded in Surah Kaf. And so he is alive. Where he is, Allahu A'lam. What is he doing? Again, Allahu A'lam. It doesn't, whenever you will find that when knowledge does not benefit us, you will find there is very little said about it. There is very little discussed about it. It now becomes a little bit of a intellectual curiosity, which is why sometimes we want to know what's going on, what's not going on. And when a person thinks, oh, why did the Sahaba not ask this question? Why didn't the Tabi'in ask this question? Why do some of the Anbiya not ask these kind of questions? And the answer we get is because they're only asked questions that required their belief in them and their practice. They were very practically minded, pragmatic Muslims. What's going to get me into Jannah? Pretty sort of those kind of questions. What's going to make me help avoid Jahannam? What acts are going to get me to Jahannam? How do I succeed? How do I get more reward? So their questions were always very pragmatic. So you'll find there's in the ahadith is replete with those kind of queries, those kind of questions. And then you find within the Quran, masail, yani they ask regarding yas'alunaka anil ahilla, they ask you regarding the new moon for the start of the month. They ask you regarding a kalala. They ask you regarding this. They ask you regarding that. And they ask you all these questions. And when they ask you all these questions, then obviously these questions are being asked because they are expecting an answer in order to act upon, in order to either impact on their belief as to what they should be believing, but more so in terms of, what we should act upon. What is it we should do? What is it we shouldn't do? So you'll find those kind of queries a lot more. Jazakallah for answering my questions. Much appreciated. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts. Ameen. Wa alaikum assalam, Iman. How are you? Alhamdulillah, I am good. MashaAllah, you're a bit late today, but khair, we'll let you off. Is it allowed to go to the gym? Yeah, it is allowed to go to the gym. So there's no reason why it's not allowed. The issues that a person may face in the gym are maybe music at the gym, and there may be people, if Hamza is a bloke, so there may be obviously women that are coming to use the gym. So the two ways that one can avoid that, so to speak, is again wearing earphones or headphones, I think they're called, the ones which sit on your ears, the one that goes across the top, and that eliminates the music side. When it comes to women, then it depends what time you use the gym. So there are times where obviously there's going to be more chance of women using the gym than most. And also you will find that, not all gyms have that many female members. So even if you do get some female members using the gym, then they tend not to be large in number. And if it's a large enough gym, then you can work in a different area. You don't need to be in that particular area. And we are taught, you see, as men, where, sometimes we find, men of taqwa, what they try to do is avoid running into women, so they stay at home. But that becomes a role reversal. Men were supposed to go out of the house. Just because now women have gone out of the house doesn't mean men rush inside and hide inside the house. Men are men at the end of the day. They have to be outside and they have to be doing things that what blokes are supposed to be doing. So if they find that in their area, shall we say, that now you're getting, the odd woman or two coming in and using that area, then we're always told to lower our gaze. So our job is to lower our gaze, is to turn away. So if you know there's a woman working in that part of the gym, exercising that part of the gym, then go somewhere else, use another part of the gym. The gym is big enough. But if it's such a place where it's just surrounded by women and you've got no choice and you're always going to run to them, then maybe you've got to go to another gym. And sometimes when you go to these kind of bloke gyms, as I call them, man gyms, where everybody stood in front of the mirror, doing all of this stuff, then you've got, less chance of running into women because women don't like those kind of gyms. So it's about picking the right kind of gym. If you're going to a gym in which there's going to be that kind of crowd, then obviously you're going to run into those sorts of things. But if you're not, it's about, getting that balance. Otherwise, there'll be nowhere for a man to go, because then a man can't go to the shopping mall because there's women there. A man can't go into the city center because there's women there. A man can't go to a restaurant because there's women there. A man can't go to the local burger shop because there's women there. So what's the man going to do? Stay at home, put a niqab on? What's he going to do? Then he may as well leave the country. He may as well go to another country. Where's he going to go there? Even if he goes to another country, he's going to find, apart from some countries, unless he gets to Afghanistan, inshallah, he's going to find that there's women there as well. So That's the world we live in at the moment. So it's about being practical and sensible to the best of one's ability. And if a man feels, look, I can't control myself, if I go to the gym and I see women, I'm going to look at them because I have that kind of uncontrollable appetite, unfortunately. So my eyes are gonna stray. So then it's probably not a good idea for him to go there, because then he's gonna sin, because now looking at them is committing zina of the eyes. And if then that moves on to something else, then he's committing zina of something else. So we're after general answers, but you cannot give general answers, because first of all, each context is different and each person is different. So for example, we see in certain cases where a man can go to the gym, do his own thing, work out, and he's gone, and he doesn't even know who's walked in and who's walked out. Whereas another man can go to the gym and he spends more time looking around. Whether there's men or women or not is irrelevant. I'm just saying he's spending most of the time looking around. So he doesn't do much of a workout, because all he's doing is, oh, I wonder what he's up to. Oh, I wonder what he's doing. Oh, I wonder what he's doing. So it really depends on a person's own personality. So that's why I avoid the answer. So generally speaking, because that's what a gym is for. Can a person go to the gym to work out in order to become stronger, fitter? Of course. I have heard reading Surah Ikhlas 3 times is equivalent to reading the full Qur'an in reward. Is this true, and how does it compare to actually reading the full Qur'an? Yes, it is true that reciting Surah Ikhlas 3 times is equivalent to the recitation of the full Qur'an in thawab, okay, in reward. Okay, in reward. That doesn't necessarily mean, and of course, so how long does it take a person to recite Surah Ikhlas 3 times? Maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes. How long does it take to a person to recite the full Quran? Well, if it takes him half an hour to pray a para, then that's going to be 15 hours. So 15 hours compared to 5 minutes, of course, the person who's reciting for 15 hours is going to get tremendously more reward than the person who is going to get for 5 minutes. But what this is trying to suggest to people and encourage people that do anything, okay, do anything, and don't make things difficult for yourself. That you've only got 10 minutes. You've only got 10 minutes. Don't think, oh, what can I do in this 10 minutes? I can't do anything in this 10 minutes. And we are very, I've forgotten the word now. Starts with a C. When you're lazy, it's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come. Somebody help me out. No, I can't remember it. I'll find it, inshallah. Allah, but it really bugs me. Whenever I have a word on the tip of my tongue and I don't get it, I don't sleep now until I get this word. But it will come, inshallah. Procrastination. That's the word. I told you it'll come. I tricked you by saying it starts with a C. It actually starts with a P. No. Procrastination. That's the word. There's a lag on here, mashallah. So anyway, it's to avoid that procrastination. It's to avoid that looking for an excuse not to do something. You have 5 minutes, you can do something. You have 5 minutes, you can do something. You can get reward for the recitation of the full Quran in 5 minutes. How? Recite Surah Ikhlas. Don't be defeatist. Be positive. Look at everything as an opportunity. Don't look at things as problems. Don't say, oh, I wish I really would recite the full Quran, inshallah, but I just don't get no time because I work all day and da-di-da-di-da, whatever. Have you not got 5 minutes? Yes, I have. Okay, recite Surah Ikhlas 3 times. So I hope that makes sense. Reverse ghira also exists today. Yeah, it's what's happening is, the more men that leave public places, then the more women are going to fill those public places. So it becomes a vicious circle. So then what happens is more women feel confident to come out, and then more men disappear. And then you've got a whole new world now. So, men shouldn't feel that. But again, adding that point that if this person feels that they're going to commit sin, then obviously, then that person should avoid it. Okay, alhamdulillah, we had that last burst of a few questions. We're just a couple of minutes away from the end of today's session, 7 till 8, alhamdulillah. Some wide topics across the board, some on aqidah, some on our fiqh, and everything else in between, and also about clean mugs and clean plates. It's been quiet, mashallah, on the, what do you call this? On, what do you call it? Instagram. We only had one question from an older student, Mr. Diggers, who's now gone off to the gym. Maybe tomorrow as a starting subject, you could talk about abortion. Absolutely, Willie, man. So you need to be here, Iman, at 7 p.m. The reason why you need to be here at 7 p.m., there's no point me starting a discussion on abortion and you're not here. You won't really hear it. So you make sure you're here at 7 p.m. And as a reminder, you can put that question up about abortion. And what we'll do is I will talk to you and all those who tune in at 7 p.m. On abortion, inshallah. We've got exams coming up. What are the exams in, Hamza? Pray tell. Let me know what the exams are. As-Salamu Alaikum Mufti. Are halal mortgages actually halal? Oh, that's an interesting question. Are halal mortgages actually halal? Is it what it says on the tin? Now, Osama, I would have answered that question, but guess what, Osama? You've just joined at 1959, and at 2000 hours, I stop. So can you please also join us tomorrow, Osama, at 7 p.m. Internal mocks. I have A levels in May. Allah grant you ease and success. What I would like is Iman and Osama to join at 7 p.m. tomorrow so we can answer the are halal mortgages actually halal, and also the question about abortion. Please don't forget 7 p.m. because you know I will forget. Okay, you know I will forget. So till then, we have hit that magic number. We didn't have anything else coming on Instagram. Again, I would say I've seen some familiar names on here, some ex-students, mashallah. So that's nice to see. Please do share our handles out and about to people. Please also share the videos so we keep the caravan growing. So at least by the time we hit Ramadan, alhamdulillah, everybody in the world knows about these sessions. That fiqh hour is the next thing after the shahada on their lips, mashallah. Okay, after the rood as well. Till tomorrow, inshallah, wa akhiru da'wana. And alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.